There's a lot of negative stuff around JayZ right now, which is clearly damaging to him.
Yeah, and I think there's like a famous quote from someone who was acquitted, and he said, all right, where do I go to get my reputation back?
Right.
I mean, social media was a light. Beyonce's next, JayZ's next, all the people in Inner Circle is next.
Yeah, and the problem is there are just so many pictures of the two of them partying together, and he clearly was at a load of Diddy parties.
What if JayZ wasn't just in the room, but knew exactly what was happening? In a jaw-dropping moment, a victim named him in Diddy's inner circle, and the judge snapped, tearing into his testimony like never before. This isn't just messy, it could be criminal. The courtroom went silent, the industry shaken, and by the end of this video, you'll understand why JayZ's name might never be the same again. Stay locked in.
Shawn Diddy Combs is facing new accusations of human trafficking as he awaits his federal trial. In a civil case filed in Florida April 1st, Joseph Manzaro alleges, according to court documents obtained by E! News, that he was drugged, transported against his will, and sexually maimed as a victim of a coercive and organized criminal enterprise facilitated by Combs and others back in 2015, and names celebs such as Beyonce, JayZ, and LeBron James as witnesses in the lawsuit. In his filing, Manzaro says the alleged events took place in April 2015. He states that he lost consciousness after feeling a, quote, greasy substance resembling Vaseline as he opened the front door to his home, after which he says he was transported to another residence, where an associate of Combs allegedly told him that the music mogul wanted him brought to a freak-off event. Manzaro alleges in the suit he was secretly transferred to the music producer's home through a concealed tunnel allegedly connected to Gloria Estefan and Emilio Estefan's Miami property. He alleges that upon regaining partial consciousness, he found himself inside a large party area upon information and belief that it was a birthday party for Combs' then 17-year-old son Christian Combs. There, he was allegedly forced to appear in a penis mask.
The moment that changed everything. The courtroom was already tense, cameras outside, press whispering inside. Everyone knew this trial had the potential to shake the industry, but no one expected what came next. It happened so fast, yet the room felt like it froze. A key victim under sworn testimony named JayZ as part of Diddy's inner circle, not just as a friend or collaborator, but someone who allegedly knew exactly what went down at the infamous private parties. People in the gallery looked at each other. You could hear the shift, gasps, a chair creaking, even one juror visibly raised their eyebrows. The victim didn't flinch. They spoke calmly but clearly. He wasn't just around, he knew. They all did.
Shawn Diddy Combs is about to face off in the biggest trial of his life, from those freak-offs to those RICO charges. There's a lot going on in this case, and a lot of witnesses will also be taking the stand. But here to break down the very latest, I want to bring into the conversation legal analyst Nima Rahmani. Nima, thanks so much for being with us here on Knife Now from Fox.
Of course, Christina, excited for next week.
And it's been a trial that we've been continuing to follow here over the last few months and really over the last year, as those developments have still tried to come into our newsroom. But let's start with the very basics. Something that came out this week: Diddy formally declined the last plea deal that he was offered. Again, we know court is set to begin on Monday. Was this an expected move for him to turn down that final plea offer?
Christina, it was expected. And the judge in the case, Judge Subramanian, asked Diddy, did you decline and reject the government's offer? And the reason is, it's the defendant's right to a speedy trial, and the judge wants to make sure that he is making a knowing and voluntary decision to push the case to trial, because obviously there's a benefit to pleading. Usually you get a reduced sentence. I still think it would be double-digit years in federal prison.
That was the moment the judge leaned forward and cut off the defense's line of questioning, and then came the quote that shook the room. "You cannot sit in that chair and pretend you didn't know." You could feel the air leave the room. The judge's tone was serious, even disappointed, as if JayZ had just crossed a line that went beyond celebrity and straight into legal danger. From that moment, it wasn't about image anymore. This wasn't a PR cleanup. It wasn't tabloid gossip. This was real, legal, and public.
A new Diddy accuser claiming he was sexually assaulted, raped, and humiliated at a freak-off party in Miami, and that other big stars saw him in rough shape. TMZ is all over the story. Branson Quirk joining us live. Now, Branson, let me get this right. This new Diddy accuser is basically claiming he was sexually assaulted at the freak-off party, and he claims that other celebrities were there as well?
Yes, exactly. In this lawsuit, and it's important to note that these names are not being sued, but they are named as witnesses inside this lawsuit, those names being JayZ, Beyonce, Gloria Estefan, as well as LeBron James. Just to paint you a little bit of a picture of this horrific lawsuit, a man by the name of Joseph Marzano, he claims that he had, in the beginning of this lawsuit, he claims that he woke up in a mansion, this is way back in April of 2015, in a mansion owned by Gloria and Emilio Estefan, and when he woke up not knowing how he got there, he was then led through a tunnel to Diddy's house, and we can confirm that Diddy, his home is nearby to Gloria and Emilio Estefan's home, and once he was through this tunnel, he eventually came across and claimed that LeBron James was walking by in a towel of sorts, saw him in rough shape, and said, someone's got to do something.
And that leads us to what JayZ actually said, because now all eyes are on his own testimony, what he claimed versus what was exposed. So let's rewind. Before his name even came up in that chilling victim statement, JayZ had already given testimony, and in it he made it very clear he wasn't involved, he didn't attend anything illegal, and he didn't know what Diddy did in his private time. He positioned himself as distant, friendly with Diddy, sure, but not part of any dark circle. But when you compare that to the victim's timeline, it doesn't add up. The victim mentioned events, houses, and gatherings that matched the same time frames JayZ claimed to be elsewhere, and not just once, repeatedly.
New developments within the past couple hours in the Shawn Diddy Combs case.
Defense attorneys are requesting he be released on bail and placed on home confinement. Eyewitness News reporter Annabelle Munoz is here with more on a ruling expected in a matter of days that could lead to his release.
It certainly could, Philip and Ellen, and this is Combs' third request for bail. Two judges have shut down previous efforts, saying there's enough evidence he's a danger to the community, to obstruct justice, and intimidate witnesses. Today, his attorneys made another case for home confinement. Family members of music mogul Shawn Diddy Combs arrived at a federal courthouse in New York as his attorneys urged a judge to release Combs on a $50 million bond. They argued Combs should be placed on home confinement in a 3-bedroom New York City apartment under 24/7 monitoring by full-time security. The prosecution argued Combs nor private security could be trusted to comply with the court. The judge did not immediately rule and says he will have a decision next week. This comes just days after the filing of 5 new civil lawsuits against Combs by men and women.
That's when lawyers and legal commentators stepped in. One said, if he knew and claimed he didn't, that's not just shady, that's perjury. People started piecing things together, comparing statements, matching flight logs, party lists, and even social media posts. Suddenly, his clean testimony looked more like carefully chosen words. And credibility? Once that cracks in court, it's hard to repair. Another legal expert said bluntly, once a jury senses you're lying, even a little, everything else you say becomes suspect.
There's a lot of negative stuff around JayZ right now, which is clearly damaging to him.
Yeah, and I think there's like a famous quote from someone who was acquitted, and he said, all right, where do I go to get my reputation back?
Right.
I mean, social media was a light. Beyonce's next, JayZ's next, all the people in the inner circle is next.
Yeah, the problem is there are just so many pictures of the two of them partying together, and he clearly was at a load of Diddy parties.
With that in mind, let's talk about what the victim actually said, because those allegations, they go beyond just being in the room. The victim's chilling allegations. The victim didn't just name names, they gave scenes. Vivid ones, specific parties, addresses, dates. They mentioned VIP-only zones and said JayZ was absolutely present. One part really stood out. They described parties where guests had to leave their phones at the door, sign NDAs, and use code words for who was allowed into certain areas. They said there was a separate area inside the house. Only the big names could go there. And JayZ, he wasn't a guest watching from the sidelines. The victim claimed he was part of that exclusive access loop. The kind of person who didn't need to ask questions because he already knew what was going on.
In the meantime, let's go back to New York City. Want to get some updates on the case that is unfolding there regarding Shawn Diddy Combs. These were the courtroom sketches. Just today, we're turning our attention now there, the sex trafficking case against Diddy and the possible resentencing of the Menendez brothers in Los Angeles. We'll get to that in just a moment here, but let's focus our efforts on New York. Want to get to these headlines in both cases, and we're going to do that with our friend Nima Rahmani, former federal prosecutor and legal analyst. He joins us. Nima, good to see you, and thanks for being with us here. You were tweeting about the Diddy case today. There was an emergency hearing called this afternoon at the courthouse in Lower Manhattan, the judge ordering the prosecution to turn over its findings from a jail cell raid, Diddy's jail cell, just yesterday. What were the contents of those raids?
Well, apparently, according to the defense, they're legal documents. The government's saying no, on the contrary, they're just some handwritten notes and a calendar. And what the judge did, Judge Subramanian, is he ordered the prosecution to destroy their copies. He kept copies, and he's going to review them in chambers or in camera. And one of two things will happen. Either the defense is right.
Lawyers representing the victim told reporters JayZ's involvement wasn't passive. He was aware. And silence doesn't mean innocence. This wasn't just a name drop. This was a claim that he saw something and said nothing. And in some legal context, that's enough to put you under a whole new spotlight.
In a statement to E! News, Combs' legal team says the filed complaint demonstrates the depraved lengths plaintiffs will travel to garner headlines in pursuit of a payday. No sane person reading this complaint could credit this story. Mr. Combs looks forward to having his day in court, where these lies and the perverse motives of those who told them will be revealed. E! News has reached out to JayZ and Beyonce, the Estefans, and James for comment and has not heard back. JayZ's attorney tells TMZ his client wasn't in Florida at the time of the alleged incident. Additionally, James' rep tells the outlet the athlete was playing basketball for the Cleveland Cavaliers and never in Miami at the time the alleged party took place, while Gloria and Emilio's reps say that no parties were thrown at their Miami house between 2012 and 2019. As a result of the alleged party, Manzaro says in the lawsuit he suffered catastrophic physical injuries, including severe internal trauma, permanent groin damage, sexual maiming, and multiple inguinal hernias, and that they are extensively documented by medical evaluations from a urologist and surgeon. In a 2024 federal indictment charging Combs with sex trafficking and other charges, he was accused of using his companies to transport women and male sex workers to take part in recorded sex performances.
So now people are looking at this inner circle of celebrities very differently, and that takes us into the network behind the scenes, the parties, the people, and the power. JayZ Diddy and the private party network for years. There were whispers, rumors about Diddy's exclusive gatherings, where only the highest level of A-list stars were invited. These weren't your typical after parties. We're talking about compound houses, private islands, and armed security. JayZ was always on those invite lists. So were names like Usher, Meek Mill, French Montana, a tight circle that moved in private jets and signed silence agreements before entering the room.
ABC News has learned that a jury is expected to be seated tomorrow in the racketeering and sex trafficking trial of Shawn Diddy Combs. More prospective jurors questioned today to make up the group of 18 people needed to officially begin the trial on schedule on May 12th. And Combs has pleaded not guilty to racketeering, conspiracy, sex trafficking, and transportation to engage in prostitution charges. 5 counts and all. Let's go ahead and bring in our Rena Roy for the latest on this story. And Rena, good to see you again. In this story here, the judge criticized lawyers on both sides for failing to find qualified jurors and said, quote, "We are running out of time." What more do we know?
Yeah, well, you and I were just sitting here just a short time ago, right, questioning if things could get delayed, talking about how it seemed like a slow day. Well, it turns out the judge thought so too. A lot of people were dismissed today, whether it was because of potential bias or conflicts, but he basically told both sides they have to get this done so that opening statements can begin as scheduled on Monday. As he said, they're running out of time. Now, as it stands, there are 35 prospective jurors in the pool, and they need to reach a pool of 45 before narrowing that down and seating 12 jurors plus alternates. And both sides agreed it is likely they could get this done tomorrow, so we will be keeping a close eye on that.
All right, Rena, thank you. We appreciate it. And for more on this, let's go and bring in a former federal prosecutor and president of West Coast Trial Lawyers, Nima Rahmani. Nima, good to see you. So what do you make of the development that a jury is expected to be seated tomorrow? We mentioned the judge's urgency to start opening statements on time.
What's becoming clearer now is that this group may have operated under a don't ask, don't tell understanding. If something shady was going down, you looked away, or maybe you already knew and didn't care. As long as you were protected. One former industry insider said, if you were in that circle, you benefited. Access, deals, exposure, but the price was silence.
The first day of jury selection has concluded in Shawn Diddy Combs' sex trafficking and racketeering conspiracy trial. So far, 19 jurors have been qualified. The magic number here is 45 because once the panel reaches that number, the prosecutions and Combs' defense lawyers will use their strikes to get this group down to 12 jurors and a number of alternates. Here's what we know about those who have qualified so far. 2 women have said that they have been sexually assaulted decades ago in the past. They were allowed to continue on. And another woman who said that she had once been arrested for shoplifting for stealing a wand from Harry Potter's world at Universal Studios, also in that panel. Several jurors were dismissed, including one who had seen that hotel surveillance video. She had called it damning evidence, and for that reason, the judge had excused her from the panel. Jury selection will continue Tuesday morning until they get to the magic number 45 and go through those strikes. The judge thinks that will happen this week.
The victim's story paints that same picture. JayZ wasn't the mastermind, but he allegedly knew. He allegedly stood by as things happened. And now that this inner circle is under investigation, people are starting to question everyone who was part of it.
Shawn Diddy Combs has been sitting in federal prison for 8 months, and it is a lousy prison. And I gotta tell you, there is a world where people look at the indictment against him and look at the case as we know it at this point and say, wow, has this guy been overpunished to this point? But now it will begin in earnest on Monday, okay? And we're going to see whether or not the government has the ability to show charges that will have made it a huge mistake for Combs to not take a deal. Now, what's he charged with? Sex trafficking, racketeering, conspiracy, transportation to engage in prostitution. Now, I got to tell you, most of those are implication crimes, meaning that they're going to say, well, we can't get you specifically for this thing, but we know you were part of this enterprise that was doing this thing. If convicted, he could face life. He probably could have gotten a deal. He didn't want a deal.
That brings us back to court and what the judge's reaction could actually mean for JayZ legally. Judges slamming legal implications for JayZ. When the judge made that comment, you cannot sit in that chair and pretend you didn't know. It wasn't just shade, it was a legal warning. It hinted that JayZ's testimony might not just be weak, it could be false. And in court, lying under oath is a big deal. That's called perjury, and it comes with serious consequences.
At least 6 lawsuits accuse Combs of raping men and women and molesting a 16-year-old boy. Lawsuits were filed anonymously by 2 women and 4 men. The accusers are part of what lawyers say is a group of more than 100 alleged victims in the process of taking legal action against Combs following his sex trafficking arrest last month. Combs has pleaded not guilty and remains in jail without bail. No comment from Combs' lawyer on the new lawsuit.
Hello, I'm Mark Brown. Get more great ABC7 content by clicking the subscribe button for our YouTube channel and download the ABC7 Los Angeles streaming app on Fire TV, Android TV, Apple TV, and Roku to watch on your TV.
Lawyers started buzzing about what could come next. If JayZ is found to have misled the court, he could be called back in or even face charges as a material witness who withheld truth. One analyst put it this way: the judge's words weren't casual, that's a signal. They're not playing anymore. Meanwhile, JayZ's legal team has reportedly gone into full panic mode, reassessing everything he said in his statement, and there are whispers of subpoenas, even possible federal interest in what JayZ knew and when.
Overlooking her, it's just that they were earlier. It happened earlier than this year, than all of the big hit. So in other news, you guys know Diddy is still in court. So today, Thursday, May 8th, no one's in court, but they will return on Friday, May 9th, and I'll be there as well too. And on Friday, May 9th, they're going to try and cut down this pool of 45 people into 12 jurors and 6 alternates that they need to begin the trial on Monday. Monday is where opening statements start. Monday's date is, because I know people don't watch this in real time sometimes, Monday, May 12th is when opening statements begin in Diddy's trial. Now, yesterday in court, Wednesday, May 7th, there were some issues with the jurors because it's hard to find people that are either not connected to not even just Diddy in the story at this point, but also to some of the attorneys in the room and the judge. So there was one juror that took issue with being selected. He came onto the stand and instantly you noticed, like you would notice in the court, that there was like a kind of like a little key that went down with him and the judge, and it's because he's actually litigated some cases with the judge. So of course he was dismissed, and the jurors said, like, you know, I wouldn't be comfortable doing this because I think it may make it hard for me to litigate some other cases that I have coming up. So he was dismissed, but then and the judge kind of didn't really not that the judge didn't care, but
the courtroom reaction turned this from bad optics into a potential legal firestorm, and the ripple effects are already reaching outside the courtroom walls. Because while his lawyers deal with the court, his PR team is scrambling to do damage control, JayZ's PR panic mode. After the judge's words echoed across the courtroom, it didn't take long for the ripple effect to hit JayZ's inner circle. And this time, we're talking about his PR team, legal squad, and brand handlers. Because now they're fighting on two fronts, the courtroom and the court of public opinion.
With the Sean Combs trial fast approaching, prosecutors are adding to their case, now hitting the former rap mogul with additional sex trafficking charges. ABC News' chief investigative correspondent Aaron Katursky is here with those details. Good morning, Aaron.
Hey, good morning, Janae. Sean Combs is set to go on trial 1 month from today, and the case against him just got a little bigger. This morning, Sean Diddy Combs faces 2 additional criminal charges a month before he's scheduled to stand trial in New York. Federal prosecutors charged Combs with an additional count of sex trafficking and an additional count of transportation to engage in prostitution. Both relate to an individual referred to in court papers as Victim 2. Combs previously pleaded not guilty to 1 count of each of those charges, as well as the most serious charge he faces, racketeering conspiracy.
For Sean Combs, the challenge in this new superseding indictment is that any one alleged victim could amount to serious prison time. He would have to disprove each and every one of the 4 alleged victims, because if even one is believed, he could serve life behind bars.
Combs now faces a total of 5 federal counts that could get him decades in prison if convicted. His attorneys are downplaying the new indictment, saying in a statement these are not new allegations or new accusers. These are the same individuals, former long-term girlfriends who were involved in consensual relationships. This was their private sex life, defined by consent, not coercion. But the indictment says Combs lured women under the pretense of a romantic relationship into engaging in sexual encounters, and when he didn't get his way, prosecutors allege Combs kidnapped a woman, flashed a gun, and dangled a female victim.
Inside Rock Nation, the vibe reportedly shifted into crisis mode. One insider said, "It's all hands on deck. Nobody's answering outside calls. It's damage control, period." Lawyers and PR reps were reportedly working in shifts, drafting and redrafting potential statements, and then deciding not to release them at all. The silence? It's strategic. Every word right now could be used in court or spun online.
In other news, Sean Diddy Combs has been hit with 6 new lawsuits accusing him of sexual assault, including from a 16-year-old boy. The musician has been further accused of raping women and sexually assaulting men, though has previously denied all of the charges against him. Our US correspondent Martha Kellner has the latest.
These new civil suits have been brought by at least 6 separate individuals and contain a whole slew of damaging and disturbing allegations against P. Diddy. They're brought by 4 women and 2 men who allege variously that between the years of 1995 and 2021, they were either raped or sexually assaulted by P. Diddy. One of those people making the allegations is a man who says that he was a 16-year-old boy when he was sexually assaulted by P. Diddy, who he says presented it as some form of a rite of passage for getting into the music industry. He alleges that Sean Combs told him, "Don't you want to break into the business?" before demanding that he drop his pants. There is an allegation also from a woman who says that she was 19 years old when P. Diddy raped her inside a Marriott hotel room in Manhattan. She's also taking civil action against Marriott hotels. There is another man who alleges that he was attacked.
And where's Beyonce in all this? Sources say she's furious and blindsided, not necessarily because of what's been said in court, but because JayZ may have downplayed just how deep the Diddy situation really went. She built her empire on control and clean branding, and this is chaos.
The criminal trial for Sean Combs is set to begin tomorrow in New York with jury selection. Now, Combs has pleaded not guilty to multiple charges, including sex trafficking, and has denied all civil allegations against him. Now, sources say Combs' ex-girlfriend, Cassie Ventura, will be a central witness during the trial. Now, sources also tell CNN other witnesses expected to testify include his former sexual partners, a business associate, and a male sex worker. Joining me now to discuss is trial attorney and former senior assistant district attorney Otto Ekpo. Thank you for being here. Can you just put into perspective how significant this case is?
This is a very, very significant case. I like to akin this is the Gen Z's
I guess, version of the O.J. Simpson trial.
Wow.
I was in 5th grade whenever the O.J. verdict came out, and I remember my teacher stopping trial, or stopping the court, stopping our courtroom just for us to figure out like what's going on. We got to figure out what's happening with this verdict. What's different in this particular case than the O.J. Simpson trial is that this is not going to be live streamed.
Yeah.
You know, in federal court, you can't live stream any type of court at all. You can't live stream any trials. And so your audience is really going to have to focus on how CNN is kind of letting them know how the trial is.
Meanwhile, the internet's doing what it does best, digging. Old clips of JayZ and Diddy at private parties have resurfaced. Videos once seen as harmless now look suspiciously staged. A 2009 clip where the two were seen exiting a private club with heavy security has gone viral. And suddenly, everyone's asking, what was behind those velvet ropes? Bloggers are already making timelines. TikTok creators are uploading minute-by-minute breakdowns of JayZ's alleged movements. And the silence from his team is only feeding the frenzy.
That's what I got, Mama. So shout out to JayZ, right? That's what I got, or JayZ, whatever you want to call him. Shout out to him. That's what I got, Mama.
What do you think about JayZ saying that him and Diddy were never friends?
Come on, gang, you gotta say that, right? You gotta say that I don't know you. See, I don't think you understand. See, you do a whole lot of blogging and like a lot of podcasts, whatever you do, I don't know what you do, but you gotta understand, gang. The first thing you gotta do is disconnect, right? I don't know JayZ. I don't know Diddy. You gotta say you don't know nothing. That's what I told you before, right? You can't really say it, right? But behind all them lines, what he's saying is, I don't know what he was doing. I don't got nothing to do with that. He know Diddy, but he don't know Diddy when he transformed. I swear to God, Mama. When he transformed to the other person, he don't know that, right? I swear to God, Mama. But he know Diddy. Everybody know Diddy. I swear to God, Mama. But he don't know what they saying like that. He don't know about that.
But the real question people keep circling back to isn't just did he know, it's how much did he see? Because now it's no longer just about proximity, it's about participation, or at the very least, complicity, which leads us into the darkest part of the conversation, what JayZ might have known, and why he stayed quiet. What did JayZ really know? Theories, rumors, and receipts. The court testimony triggered a floodgate. Suddenly, everyone who's ever worked behind the scenes in the music industry has something to say. Anonymous assistants, ex-bodyguards, even former stylists. All coming forward, whether through podcasts or burner accounts, with the same general message. He knew. They all knew. One former assistant, now going viral, claims, there were entire rooms that only Jay, Puff, and a few others could enter. We were told never to ask questions. Another person said the parties had blackout rooms, no cameras, no phones, full privacy. Even leaked flight logs from private jets show JayZ and Diddy traveling together to remote villas during the time some of these parties allegedly took place. One blogger pointed out, it's not a coincidence when the same names keep showing up on the same days in the same locations.
Tell me about Tupac. Can I explain something here tonight? I hope y'all clap because I'm about to say exactly what y'all think. White people always, be careful. I can say this because I'm so not a racist. White people call Tupac, I'm sorry, Tupac. If it was Tupac, it would have a K. You're not the first. Hopefully after tonight, you will be the last.
Old interview footage from The Breakfast Club where JayZ laughs off questions about Diddy's wild parties now feels way more sinister. Y'all know Diddy, he joked at the time, but now people are replaying that laugh. And they're not laughing with him anymore. Even podcasters who used to avoid calling JayZ out are suddenly speaking up. One said, when the room shifts like this, it's because people are done protecting you. The theories are growing louder. Some say JayZ helped fund the parties. Others say he was just a frequent guest who looked the other way. Either way, the public perception is changing. He fessed, and that perception, it's already hitting his business. Because now it's not just about his name being dragged. It's about the empire he built. How this could impact JayZ's empire. When JayZ said, I'm not a businessman, I'm a businessman. he meant it. But that business is now walking on a tightrope, and every headline, every theory, it chips away at his billion-dollar brand. Corporate partners are watching this unfold in real time. He's got deals with the NFL, major tech firms, liquor brands, all of them built on trust, prestige, and image. And right now, his image is under review. Sources close to Rock Nation say at least one board meeting was called after the victim testimony. One insider said they're trying to assess if this affects current partnerships. If there's blowback, they'll pull the plug fast. Other celebrities are reportedly keeping their distance. Jay-Z's usual public supporters? Quiet. That includes names like LeBron, Meek, even DJ Khaled. Not one of them has posted in support, not even a like, because in Hollywood, silence speaks volumes.
There's a lot of negative stuff around JayZ right now, which is clearly damaging to him.
Yeah, and I think there's like a famous quote from someone who was acquitted, and he said, all right, where do I go to get my reputation back?
Right.
I mean, social media was a light. Beyonce's next, JayZ's next, all the people in the inner circle is next.
Yeah, and the problem is there are just so many pictures of the two of them partying together, and it clearly was at a load of Diddy parties.
There's also the potential for civil lawsuits, especially if more victims come forward and claim JayZ had knowledge and did nothing. Financial insiders say they've already seen whispers of class action lawsuits forming behind the scenes. One media consultant said bluntly, "This isn't just gossip anymore. This is risk management. Boards don't wait for court rulings. They move on the optics. And the optics, they're getting worse by the day. Because now the biggest question everyone's asking is about what happens next. And more importantly, who else is about to get named? What happens now? Open questions, possible indictments, and the bigger picture." The trial is still unfolding, but one thing is clear. This has gone way beyond Diddy. JayZ's name entering the courtroom opened a door people can't close. And now, the industry is holding its breath.
I've even been at one when I was a kid, like 16, 17, standing outside.
Come on.
Yeah, I live my truth.
Will prosecutors follow up on the judge's remarks? Legal analysts say it's absolutely possible that JayZ could be resubpoenaed or even investigated for obstruction. It all depends on how solid the evidence is that he knew more than he let on. But the legal system isn't the only one watching. The public has turned into investigators. Twitter threads are filled with timelines. Instagram pages are sharing alleged receipts. And every day there's a new name trending. One big question, will more victims come forward and name other celebrities? Because once one domino falls, others follow. One anonymous user posted, "JayZ is not the last name. He's just the first that shocked us." People are also asking whether this is the collapse of celebrity protection culture. For decades, stars with money and connections avoided accountability. But between Diddy, JayZ, and others rumored to be involved, we might be witnessing the end of that era. And as one blogger put it, this isn't about cancel culture. This is about exposure culture. People aren't scared to speak anymore.
Here in New York, jury selection begins this morning in the federal criminal trial of Shawn Diddy Combs. Prosecutors accuse the former music mogul of abusing, threatening, and coercing people into what they say were elaborate and produced sex performances that were known as freak-offs.
Combs has pleaded not guilty to charges of sex trafficking, racketeering, and transportation to engage in prostitution. If convicted, he could face life in prison.
For more, let's bring in NBC News legal analyst Danny Ceballos, who joins us here on set. So the presiding judge hopes to have a jury in 3 days, given how well known Combs is. How realistic is that?
Well, all bets are off now that in the last 2 years, Donald Trump was tried here in Manhattan, just a few feet away from this courthouse. And Donald Trump is arguably the most famous or infamous person in human history. And they seated a jury in state court in a matter of 2 or 3 days. Judge Subramanian can probably seat a jury in this case in 3-4 days. I don't think any more than a week. It moves much faster in federal court than it does in state court. So you can expect a jury by the end of the week.
TikTokers, ex-users, podcasters, they're all asking the same thing. Who's next? Because the list isn't done. The silence is breaking, and the walls, they're closing in, so there it is. The courtroom explosion, the victim's bold claim, and JayZ at the center of it all. What do you think really went down? Drop your thoughts below. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell. More receipts and breakdowns coming your way.